Thank you for tuning into From the Cowboy State podcast. I'm your host, Michaela Getz. This is Season 3, Episode 4, and today we are joined by Dr. Mandy Marney. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is mgetz@uwyo.edu. So let's go ahead and dive in with Dr. Marney. Do you just want to tell me a little bit about yourself, your role with Extension, and kind of journey to get where you are today?
Okay. Well, I'm Mandy Marney. I'm the Associate Dean for the College of Agriculture, Life Sciences, and Natural Resources, and the Director of Extension. When I first came to Wyoming, I served as the Associate Director, so I had the privilege of working with all of our wonderful educators out in the field, and now I've moved more to a campus-centric role.
Mm-hmm. And so you are the Associate Dean and you're the Director of Extension, but where did you start out at in Extension?
I started at the University of Missouri as an ag preparedness specialist. We had a grant with Homeland Security, and I worked on all of the ag preparedness plans for the region and made sure that they dovetailed nicely into local emergency managers and Homeland Security. So it was a very different role, but I loved it and I learned a lot at that time. University of Missouri really relied on a lot of revenue generation when I worked there. And so I was able to work in diverse roles because they were grant focused. At the time, it kind of seemed like a little bit of jumping around,
Sure.
But in hindsight, I'm really glad that I did that because I was able to work on energy projects, the Homeland Security project, and then move into community development. And once I finished my PhD, that's when I made that turn into administration and worked for a program director for the ag experiment stations there.
Oh, great. Okay. And go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I was just going to ask, what did you do your PhD work in?
It was human environmental sciences. It was an interdisciplinary program that really pulled from rural sociology, architectural studies, even because they look at gerontology, they look at how environment impacts people's behaviors and vice versa, how people's behaviors really impacts the environment, both built and natural.
So kind of that thought of nature versus nurture in that theory. Okay.
So it was really a broad spectrum. I chose to really focus on rural development because I lived in a small town and I wanted to better understand how to make it a thriving place that people would want to come back to and how we could reinvigorate downtowns because I worked in 18 counties at that time. And I could just see that main streets were going away and we were losing a lot of that vitality downtown. And so I really chose to focus on that and really look at how to build up social capital in communities and how to work on that community involvement piece.
Interesting. So it seemed like a really diverse set of studies and then all of your experience before that with University of Missouri. So how do you think that set you up for the leadership roles that you're in now?
I think it gave me a broad understanding of all the aspects of extension. And when I left University of Missouri, I went to K-State and served as a district director. And that really allowed me to see a different type of system, which I loved. It was so grassroots. Every decision was made at that local level with a governing board. We had a 16-member governing board, which was very different. And I loved that experience, and it gave me a lot of boots on the ground experience with administration because we set the mill levy. We had a piece of that mill levy, which was local tax money. Worked with the board to be very frugal, but yet looking ahead, what goals do we want to accomplish and how much funding would we need to do that? We started our own foundation within the district. So I was able to get a lot of hands-on experience within the district before moving to University of Wyoming.
Absolutely. And so how have you seen, I feel like we start out either in college, high school, whatever level, and we have this idea of leadership either from sport involvement 4-H, FFA, all the above. So how has your idea of leadership adapted over your different experiences?
I think it's changed from being so focused on me as an individual to us over time. Because especially when I started as a specialist, I was focused on how can I meet the needs of my local community, and so how can I step into that leadership role within my own program. And now I really think of it as how do I empower everyone else within our team to be a leader? And what resources do people need? How can I be a connector to those resources? How can I help facilitate those conversations? And so it's just been an organic growth over time, but I think it's because I have this responsibility and I serve so many people. And I really do look at leadership in that way, that I serve as a leader. And it's a very facilitative role.
And I think that servant leadership aspect is a core contribution to the extension system, not just in Wyoming. That is where we are and work for the University of Wyoming. But in every extension system, you have to have that. What I have found and what all of my coworkers have is that servant's leader's heart to want to put, like you said, that community first.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think first and foremost in extension, we have a heart for service, and that's really what we look for when we're hiring new people, because we want them to become part of that ethos of extension where we're here to serve.
Absolutely. So speaking of hiring, do you see anything that is, other than the servant's leadership heart, do you see anything that maybe sticks out more when you're going through that hiring process of, you know what, this person has this experience or this quality, what have you, that would really make them a good fit for extension with UW? And I know it's kind of a tricky question.
Right. I think it depends on the position, but overall, we're looking for people who can really connect to their communities, especially when we're hiring educators. We want people who want to sink roots into a community, really understand the needs, and be able to produce educational content to meet those needs, or to be a connector to resources to bring into their community to make a difference.
Absolutely. And that, speaking of wanting to make roots and everything like that, that was really big for me moving up from Texas. My entire family is still down there, and maybe I'm just partial to Park County, Wyoming, but it's been very easy. As we were talking about previously, I'm a swim team coach in the evenings. We have all of our events that we do up here, the fair. There's just so much that if you really want to be part of it, it's very seamless to just kind of sink into and hit the ground running.
I would agree with that, because moving from the Midwest, I found the same thing. People were very welcoming. I felt like I was able to feel like I was part of the community within a very short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, too, how even though you might have your community in Laramie or up here in Cody, Powell, what have you, Wyoming is one big town.
True.
Everybody knows everybody. So just because it's in one area, there's no segregation. It is very fluid throughout the state, I feel.
I wasn't sure that I bought into that concept when I first moved here, but within probably 6 months to a year, everywhere I would go around the state, I would see people I knew.
Yep.
And they would stop me and we would have conversations, and I thought, this is what they mean. Yeah. And it actually feels really great. Like Wyoming feels like home.
It does. Yeah, it does. And it doesn't hurt. We're getting snow on the mountains right now, which is
it's beautiful.
Yep. So over your time in extension systems, has there ever been a time where, like the government shut down, that you've had to adapt quickly and kind of change and look at, okay, so what are our community needs? What do we need to be doing as an extension system to meet those? Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think one of the biggest pivots that we made was actually during COVID. Because we all shut down, and it wasn't just one piece. We were all sent home. It was something we were not expecting. It wasn't something that we could forecast or know that people were working on budgets. And we really had to group together find synergy and find new ways to deliver programming. And I think our size of our system, we're a smaller extension system, that we were able to be more nimble than others and really switch to that webinar way of delivering information, as well as like take-home packets for 4-H kids. And I was really proud of the way that our team came together, because it was a tough time, because people were homeschooling their kids at the same time that they were trying to work. A lot of things went on pause, but we really rose to the challenge, I would say. And I was really proud of the way we did that.
And I feel like I wasn't here at the time, but I feel like you still see some of that adaptation through the programming we offer today. For example, just because I'm part of it, so it's always top of mind, but the sheep task force throughout the state that works with Dr. Whit Stewart, the sheep specialist on campus, we have been putting on webinars. We did one last year on lambing innovations in your barn. We did one this year. It was, I think, 4 different webinars over different topics and involve specialists. And so to me, that's just another way to reach people. Because like you said, kids are home. They're involved in XYZ activities. You can't always be at a program right then and there. It gives you that level to be able to go back and watch and educate yourself.
I think it forced us into being more adept at technology, which is actually really helpful in this state, especially during the winter months when people can't get out and about. I think it gave us new ways to do things, and we shouldn't turn our backs on that and just go back to the old way of programming. And I think people have done a really nice job of kind of those hybrid models of being able to reach audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of a pivot, but you had mentioned previously that you had at K-State your boots on the ground, Grassworks, integration in that system. So how have you found that you've been able to balance your statewide leadership role, also your educators who are on the ground in the different counties throughout the state?
I try to make time to go out because I don't want to lose that touch point with people. I've had a few lunches. I'm hoping to continue that across the state, where I'll just drop in, invite educators from different counties just to sit and talk to me about what's actually happening on the ground. And our leadership team, we really believe in a flattened hierarchy, and so the associate directors are able to provide a lot of great information as well. We believe in cascading information going out, so a lot of the information that I have, I'll make sure that the associate directors and program leaders are armed with that information to go out. But when it comes to getting that information back from the field, it either comes through the leadership team, or I try to get out. Like this last weekend, I spent time with our 4-H leadership team and was able to talk to the educators. Anything like that that I'm able to go out and do, I think it helps me be a better leader and serve in that role.
And just from somebody who is, in a specific region and everything, I think it means a lot to the educators when we see you, Dean Crane, Danelle, Matt, anybody like that from our leadership office out at the programs, because then I don't want to say it feels like more impactful, but you're just like, oh, yeah, it kind of, it gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling almost, if that.
Well, it's important to us because I've explained this to our team, and I hope that they do know it. We're invested in you.
Right.
And we have to show that. We have to walk the talk. We can't just say it. We have to be there. But I love our team, and so it's easy for me to take time to leave and to go out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you had mentioned, we have kind of a multi-tiered leadership system, which works really great in dissipating information out to everybody. But what would you say if somebody, just an A&R educator, 4-H educator, what have you, wanted to step up into that next tier? What advice would you give them to prep themselves?
I would say look for opportunities. Look for opportunities to be part of a leadership conference or training program. also talk to your associate director about, this is my goal. These are my career goals. And I want to actually be in your seat one day. That's not bad. Be bold and just talk through that with them. I am open to that conversation as well, because we want to develop like a direct conduit of leadership opportunities, or we want to develop a great pipeline for you to continue in this organization. We have really great people, and I'd love to keep people. And, there is turnover from time to time. And so being prepared and ready to move into that is really important. And so if we can provide professional development opportunities or ways to elevate your understanding of extension leadership, we want to do that.
Yeah. And I think we see, whether from other coworkers, from yourself, whoever in the leadership office, I think we see those opportunities. There's never been well, I don't know if that's a great, it's always yes, how is this going to improve you and develop you as an educator? There's no shortness of, what am I trying to say? There's no shortness of opportunities, I guess.
That's one thing that I do love about our system is that we have invested in the ability for people to go to professional association meetings, in-depth trainings. It's really important, I think, to continually find ways to invest back in our team. It pays dividends.
It really does. And I think one of the more effective things that we do, too, as an extension system is just the experience that certain educators have. And then there's no, stinginess of sharing that information. I have reached out, I've worked with people on 4-H, CVH, A&R, of course, my own team, and everybody is always willing to say, oh, hey, yes, you need to be doing this, or no, this won't work because of this, and pivot you, if that makes any sense. There's like a really strong internal structure, I guess.
And we're hoping to add to that with our new coaching team that we're developing. We had a working group take a look at our mentoring system, and I think it just makes sense to go from that passive mentoring to active coaching because people need a little bit more help, especially when they're new, to really get their feet underneath them. And this is going to do that in a much more effective way.
Absolutely.
I really believe that.
I 100% relate to that. When I first started, we had our previous associate director had come in, and then we had
capacity building specialist.
Yes. So we had our capacity building specialist at the time come in, and they said we went over reporting and just all of those kind of like HR check boxes. But then when it came to the actual mentoring of programming, Barton actually took me out on one of his projects and said, this is what I do. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but this is what I love. This is why. And he goes, and this is how it's been grown through my programming. And then I've seen other examples of that, like with Sam Cook on the 4-H side. And so I think having that active coaching role is vital.
I'm really hoping that it elevates the comfort level of educators that first year, because you don't even know what questions to ask.
No.
And when you get thrown into new employee orientation, you don't always know what to ask, what things to talk about because you are so new. By meeting with that coaching team so many times a year, I think that's going to just fill in the gaps a little bit more than what we've been able to do before.
Yeah, absolutely. And too, having someone that you can turn to for reporting and say, I went over this, I don't know what the heck I'm doing now. I think that'll be really nice. Yeah.
And I'm hoping to add a person, I've asked this to happen, to add a person to our coaching team to really help with how to be on the giving side of professional development.
Yeah.
And I think that will help elevate your ability to be a leader as well, because we want people to write for journals. We want them to present at national meetings. We need a coach that is specifically designated to be able to help you do that and do it well.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. I think there's a huge difference in being comfortable in your community and presenting at a program you may put on versus having a poster session, for the NACA, the National Association of County Agriculture Agents, short mouthful there. That's just night and day different because you're meeting and presenting to people across the entire nation.
Exactly.
It's not just where you feel comfortable.
But I know that there's so much expertise here.
Yeah.
It's just getting you to that comfort level where you want to do these things because we want to showcase what Wyoming is doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much good programming going on.
Yes.
Yeah. So to backpedal a little bit here, when you first decided to step into Extension, what actually got you pointed on that career path?
Well, I think it was because my dad was an extension specialist.
Okay.
He was an agriculture and rural development specialist. And I had graduated from journalism school thinking, I want to be a magazine editor. This is exactly what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I did that for a while, and then I had children and decided to stay home for a few years. I had worked as a communication specialist for a soil and water conservation district, and then started my own company and had employees. But something was missing, and I think it was just that ability to serve communities. And I knew I wanted something more. I watched him, and I thought, this is more what I really want to do. And the right position came open. And I love being part of something new. And the Ag Preparedness program was brand new. And I was able to develop something from the ground floor. And I love to do that. I actually love new. I know that that's not what some people love. So I try to balance that as a leader and not just go charging into brand new things. But that was exciting for me to be able to do that. And it allowed me to finish my graduate work at the same time.
So, and that sounds like a really pivotal moment in what led you to where you are today. Would you say that there were other key moments throughout your careers that I guess kind of sent you to where you are?
I think it was when I decided to go beyond a master's to my PhD. Mm-hmm. Because at that moment I knew within my master's I'd studied place attachment to rural communities and what really drove people to come back. Because I knew if I could key in on some of those variables that within community development, we could get people to be more involved in their communities. And that was a great project. But then I wanted to go bigger. Mm-hmm. And I think at that moment, in talking through this with my advisor, I realized I really love to solve problems, and I'd like to solve problems for teams. And so within the organization, that opportunity became available to go into that role and then allowed me to be that support for others.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so when you're talking about different opportunities and then having the right job open, things like that, something that we had previously talked about at our WIDA poster session in Laramie 6 months ago now. It's been a
time
minute.
flies.
Oh my gosh, this year is flying. But something that we had talked about is not even necessarily realizing all of the opportunities that are in extension. And, you don't have to have been in 4-H and then FFA your entire life just to get into this role.
Right.
So what, I guess, are maybe some things that you've seen throughout Extension that people don't even realize are there, either job-wise or opportunity-wise?
Well, I think people do look for the educator roles because they're out in communities. Mm. But when you have your master's, there are specialist roles as well. And I would encourage people to look at that because when they're open on campus, if one is opened with a master's requirement, then they should take a look at that. Some systems also have program associates.
Okay.
And each system is so different. That's what I would encourage people to do. If there's a place that you would like to be, the beautiful thing about Extension is that it's this nationwide network. And while every state is somewhat different, if you love doing this type of work, maybe there's a role for you. And so I would just do some research on that state that you're thinking about going to.
Right. I had the opportunity to go to a conference last year. It's the Agriculture Media Summit. And that one was really, it helped kick this podcast off and give me the confidence to do that. And anyways, we had a lot of extension educators, agriculture extension educators who were looking to do the same things. And we met somebody from University of Tennessee, and she is the equivalent of one of our university specialists, but she has her bachelor's degree. And she's like, that's what it requires. And she's like, I'm just working towards my master's. Mm-hmm. And then she can go out into the state and be a more specified specialist. But just talking about night and day differences, I think all of our specialists have at least the master's, but PhDs mm-hmm. as well. And so, yeah, that's just a completely different.
It is. In Kansas, it was a bachelor's requirement as well for educators in the field. Yeah. And so it really is different from state to state what you will encounter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, could I add one more thing to that?
Please.
Don't be afraid to join the administrative team. I will say that because when we had our capacity building specialist position open, mm-hmm. That was a brand new position, and I think we're looking at ways to increase that capacity to add new people all the time. So don't be afraid to join the administrative team. It's not, I think sometimes people think of it as the dark side of administration, but it's actually a great place to work. And then look at all of the support that you're able to give the entire state. So if you really have a heart for that and you want to grow leaders, I would say look at some of those positions within administrative teams as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think something that is maybe not unique to our state office or the administrative team is a lot of the folks who are in their positions now with the admin team, like yourself, have had boots on the ground, and they've had that regional state experience, and then they brought it just to a higher level.
And I think that's important.
It is.
If you move through a system and you start at that county level, you have a greater understanding of what people go through day to day. And I think that's extremely important to understand all the dynamics of what it takes to work and live in the community that you serve. Absolutely. And so that's something that we covet and that we look for in the leaders that go to administrative teams.
I think it just makes the team more well-rounded.
I would agree.
As a whole. Yeah. So we've talked about look at the admin team. Don't be afraid to do that. Pursue your education. But is there any piece of advice if somebody was in your situation like you were when you were working at your company, you're like, but there's just something missing? Do you have a piece of advice you would give to maybe someone in that position, a young professional that's like, this just isn't the right job for me,
I would say reach out to your extension system. If you're really interested in extension, make an appointment with one of the associate directors or with anyone on our administrative team to talk about, this is where I'd like to be. Could you just look through even my CV resume with me? Are there certain things that are missing? Are there gaps here that I know I could go out and be more involved in my community? Or are you looking for certain things? Consider a graduate degree in extension education. Mm-hmm. That will give you a really good idea of what you're going to be getting yourself into as well. But don't be afraid to make that leap and to just inquire. Any extension administrator that I know would be happy to sit down with someone who is thinking about that transition to talk about where they're at, where they want to be, and then steps to get there realistically.
And I think I wholeheartedly echo that. I was working for, State Farm at the time and then just other companies in this specified customer success role. But I knew that I just wasn't, I had that component of helping people, mm-hmm. but at the same time, it was either in the medical field or it was in some other field. And so it just wasn't connecting. It wasn't hitting home. It was very much a 9-to-5 for me. And then I decided to go back to Tarleton State University and get my master's. And I thought, I'll do agriculture and consumer resources because it was a nice all-encompassing field of study.
Right.
And I actually ended up taking 2 extension courses with professors who had been previous extension educators. And that was like my aha moment of, this is what I want to do.
It just feels right. It feels like you're coming home.
Yeah. Because you get that, like we had previously said, that servant mindset, but then you also see the impact, whether it comes back to you, right after your programming, or maybe somebody comes back a year from now and they're like, hey, I went to this, I heard this, this helped me change my operation tenfold. And those are the things that...
It makes you feel good. I have stayed in contact with a community group that I worked with in Kansas, a little town called Caney, Kansas. And they started a betterment group, and I helped them get off the ground with that. And now their main street is full. Yeah. They have all these great capital projects. And so those kind of things, when you see it continuing even years later, there's nothing like it. No. It just makes you feel good.
It does. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling. Yeah. So we've talked about how you've moved up into your leadership role and how you view leadership, everything like that. And we also, I guess let me reiterate, we talked about the change and the pivots that had to happen during COVID. Do you foresee any big pivots, I guess big or small, within our extension system in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
I think that we have to be nimble because we didn't expect even some of the federal changes this year.
Right.
With the loss of our SNAP Ed funding, that really changed what we're able to do with sensible nutrition, for example. So I just think we have to be nimble. It's hard to foresee exactly what will happen. I think Extension more and more has the opportunity to address complex social problems by working together. And so that's one thing that we have really emphasized within our own system, and I know others have as well, that we need to be working across discipline lines to address needs in our community because they're not simple. Sometimes they're messy. And if we're all working together to address those needs, regardless of whether it's 4-H, community vitality and health, or agriculture and natural resources, we're able to meet those people where they are and help them with their ranching business, but we're also able to meet their needs as people and their children's needs through 4-H. And I think it's really important that we think about things like that, that we're not just looking at it through our disciplinary lens, but that we're approaching things as a team. In kind of a multifaceted way. Yes, absolutely. And we're exponentially more successful, and we're able to have bigger impacts when we do that. Absolutely. And speaking of cross-disciplinary work, I think that goes further than just extension. I think our extension folks have really great relationships with stock growers, the land trust organizations throughout the state, just WDA, everybody like that. And so I think when you bring someone like that in as well, if maybe you don't have the expertise or the confidence to speak on whatever you're speaking on, I think that just grows those relationships too and sets you up for success. Oh, absolutely. And that's a key component, I think, of being successful in extension is to have those coalitions of folks. And if you don't have a coalition, put one together. One of the great things that we do in extension is facilitate. And so I am highly encouraging of people to go out and pull together the people around the table that are really important stakeholders to your program and have those conversations about how we can better meet people's needs, because we're all doing the same type of work and we want the same people to succeed. And so it just makes sense to work together instead of in our own silos. Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. So something that even from when I first started is people joke and they call us the in-person Google. How do you think we as extension educators or as an extension system as a whole can not only, I guess, kind of lean into that, but maybe grow
grow our presence so that people know they don't have to just say, "Hey Siri," and ask a question. They can come to us in person and kind of, I guess we can compete with Google maybe.
Well, the problem with Googling things is that you don't know what type of resource it's going to pull up.
Yeah.
That's the advantage that Extension has, is that we are research-based. And hopefully we're providing that relevant, reliable research-based information. All three of those R's are important.
Yes.
And I would encourage people to take a look at the validity of some of those resources that they're Googling, or that they have AI pick up, for example.
Yep.
In this time of AI, people think they can put anything into ChatGPT, but when ChatGPT doesn't know something, it makes it up. We don't. We go back to what the research points us to. And I think that in-person element does set us apart, because we're in every county in this state, and sometimes in 2 offices within a county. And there's nothing that beats that face-to-face, because we'll get to know you. We want to know you. We want to develop a relationship with you. And that allows us to meet your needs in a completely different way than if you're just asking Siri. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think that's something that, like you said, that face-to-face interaction, when you get that face-to-face interaction with somebody versus just using your web browser, people come back. It's almost like you meet somebody once and then you have a friend, a client for life, and any question they have that is related to they're going to be like, "Oh, well, let me ask Dr. Marney, let me ask Michaela real quick," and you've got somebody who's coming back to you.
Mm-hmm. Do you think part of that is because while we have all of these avenues and touch points with social media?
Yeah. No, I do think that. I think we give that interaction, and, we'll have folks come into our office and they sit down and just have coffee and chat with us about, maybe it's a kosher problem or the weevils, who knows, but just something going on, and then it just evolves into problem solving. But it starts as just sitting down and chitty-chatting a little bit, and I think people crave that.
I do too. I don't think there's any substitution for that human connection.
Yeah.
Someone can come in to have their pressure canner tested, but then we find out about needs that they have in their own family, and we're able to address those.
Yep.
And I'm a big proponent of that, and I loved being in a county office, and that's one thing that I do miss about a county office, is just seeing people day to day and having those relationships, like boots on the ground kind of things.
Well, in your example you just gave, quite literally happened to us in our Powell office yesterday. We had a lady come in with her son, and I think he would have been a first year 4-H'er. And she came in, though, with her pressure cooker to get it tested to make sure it wasn't over, under, what have you. And then she's like, "Hey, by the way, this is the 4-H office too, right?" Absolutely. Yes. And so then she worked with our admin and then Mary Louise over there to get her kiddo signed up. And it was just those small things that she probably maybe would have been too busy to think of otherwise. But since she was there, we were there. It was that.
And it's the start of the 4-H year, so it was perfect.
It was, yes, absolutely. So we talked about partnerships and collaboration. We've talked about leadership. I mean, we've talked about really a whole array of things on this podcast episode. But one of my last questions for you is, speaking of partnerships and collaborations, what partnerships are there that you think really make an impact in advancing our educational mission? Because that's, no matter what kind of educator you are, that is your goal, is to provide that either adult or kid education. So what partnerships do you think really are vital, I guess, in what we do to provide that education or keep continuing it?
Well, I think definitely the partnerships with your community organizations within your county. If you're county-based, I would say all of those. But at the same time, even our state partnerships are vital. I'm trying to pinpoint certain ones, but I think they are all really important. Even Wyoming Department of Health and stock growers, big brothers, big sisters, those are really important partnerships to have as well. I think it's important to just have a holistic view of partners and stakeholders, and not view people as competition, because you notice that I said big brothers, big sisters. In 4-H, we actually have been able to support big brothers, big sisters, and some others. And so we're all in this together, especially with times that resources are limited. We need to be working together to serve the people of Wyoming.
Absolutely. And like you said previously, too, then you just get that multi-layered programming. And it really drives the effectiveness home for families.
It does.
Yeah. Well, that was all of my questions. But I guess, are there any other notes or advice or anything like that that you'd like to leave the audience with? Or anything else you want to discuss?
Well, I think it's just important to realize that we're all leaders.
Yeah.
In various capacities. And so that's the wonderful thing about Extension, is that we have a team of leaders in their communities. And don't be afraid to ask if you want to move into something different. If you want to elevate your leadership abilities, or you see yourself in a new role, if you see yourself in my seat, I want to know, because I want to help you get there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here forever, and there are other extension director positions around the country. Let us help you get to where you want to be, especially if you're within this organization listening to the podcast. That's something that we want to do. We want to help elevate your abilities if you feel like you need to elevate those.
And I love the note that you initially led with of everybody is a leader. One of my favorite quotes is by Simon Sinek, and he says that leaders are not born, they're made. And I think that's kind of an old concept of, oh, well, you're just born with a leadership quality. That's not true.
That is not true.
Anybody can be a leader.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Marney, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you. This is great. And I was able to visit Park County and a few counties along the way. So this was wonderful. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Once again, y'all, this was Season 3, Episode 4, and we were joined today by Dr. Mandy Marney. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and as a reminder, this is a University of Wyoming Extension Agriculture and Natural Resources podcast. Thank y'all so much. See you next time. Funding for this UW Extension program is provided by the John P. Elbogen Foundation, Communities, Agriculture, and Rural Living Project Funds. As a reminder, this is the University of Wyoming Extension podcast. The university is committed to equal opportunity for all persons in all facets of the university's operations and is an equal opportunity / affirmative action employer. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about this statement, please don't hesitate to reach out to mgetz@uwyo.edu and we can get your questions answered. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the podcast as well, again, don't hesitate to reach out to that email address, mgetz@uwyo.edu. Again, this has been a University of Wyoming Extension Agriculture and Natural Resources podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.